What if the most powerful healing drinks on earth weren't engineered in a lab or sold in a supplement aisle, but have been simmering in ceramic pots across Chinese apothecary kitchens since the Tang Dynasty? Prescribed not by doctors with stethoscopes, but by herbalists who diagnosed your pulse, read your tongue, and composed a drink formula as precisely as a pharmacist fills a prescription. While the Western world cycles through one wellness trend after another, Chinese medicine has been refining these liquid formulations for over 1,500 years, and modern clinical research is now producing the evidence to explain why they work. Number 5 was tested in a randomized controlled trial that found it reduced visceral fat area by nearly 12% in 8 weeks, outperforming the placebo group by a margin that forced researchers to run the numbers twice. And number 1 targets a process called silent chronic inflammation, the kind you cannot feel, but that cardiologists now link to the majority of heart disease, neurodegeneration, and metabolic collapse. And a controlled human study found this drink measurably lowered its primary blood marker within just 30 days. Coming in at number 7 is chrysanthemum tea, a golden flower brew that Chinese physicians have prescribed since the Tang Dynasty over 1,000 years ago. In traditional Chinese medicine, chrysanthemum is classified as a cooling herb, used to clear what practitioners call liver heat, a pattern associated with red eyes, headaches, and irritability. Farmers in Zhejiang and Anhui provinces still harvest these blossoms by hand each autumn, carefully timing the pick to just before full bloom when the medicinal potency peaks. They dry the flowers slowly in shade rather than direct sunlight to preserve their delicate floral sweetness and active compounds. When you steep them, the pale yellow liquid carries a honey-like aroma that feels calming before you even take your first sip. During the Qing Dynasty, chrysanthemum tea was served at imperial banquets, specifically during the Double Ninth Festival, and scholars would gather in gardens to drink it while composing poetry, believing it sharpened mental clarity. The science behind this tradition centers on a flavonoid called luteolin. Research published in the journal Inflammation found that luteolin suppresses the NF-κB signaling pathway, one of the central switches your body uses to activate inflammatory responses. A 2019 study in Molecular Medicine report showed that chrysanthemum extract reduced inflammatory markers including interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha in animal models by over 30%. But the benefits extend to your eyes as well. A clinical investigation at Nanjing Medical University demonstrated that participants who consumed chrysanthemum tea daily for 8 weeks experienced measurable improvements in tear film stability and reduced symptoms of dry eye syndrome, a condition affecting nearly half of all regular screen users. The chlorogenic acid in chrysanthemum also contributes to blood pressure regulation. A meta-analysis covering 6 controlled studies found that chlorogenic acid intake was associated with a 5-point reduction in systolic blood pressure. Researchers believe this works through inhibition of the angiotensin-converting enzyme, the same mechanism targeted by common prescription blood pressure medications. If you want to try this yourself, look for whole-dried chrysanthemum buds from Hangzhou, often labeled as Hangbai-ju, which are considered the highest grade. Steep about 5 to 8 flowers in hot water just below boiling for 3 to 4 minutes. You can add a few goji berries for sweetness, which is exactly how it has been served in Chinese tea houses for centuries. The flavor is light enough to drink throughout the day, and many traditional practitioners recommend it as a daily afternoon tea, especially during hot summer months when cooling the body is considered essential. And that naturally leads us to number 6, a drink that shares tea house culture but operates on completely different chemistry. This is aged pu'er tea, a fermented dark tea from Yunnan province that has been traded along the ancient tea horse road since the Tang Dynasty over 1,000 years ago. Pu'er is unlike any other tea because it undergoes microbial fermentation, sometimes for decades. The Bulang and Dai ethnic groups of southern Yunnan were among the first to recognize that this post-fermented tea settled the stomach in ways fresh green tea never could. Tibetan nomads depended on it so heavily that compressed pu'er bricks literally served as currency along remote mountain trade routes, and Mongolian herders dissolved it in yak butter to create a calorie-dense drink that sustained them through brutal winters. The liquid is deep reddish-brown, almost like dark mahogany, with an earthy, smooth flavor that some describe as reminiscent of wet forest soil in the best possible way. Aged pu'er develops increasingly complex notes over time, with well-stored cakes from the 1970s now selling for thousands of dollars at auction. The fermentation process produces unique compounds including gallic acid and theobromines that you simply will not find in other teas. A randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in Clinical Interventions in Aging found that participants who consumed pu'er tea extract daily for 20 weeks experienced a significant reduction in LDL cholesterol, with an average decrease of over 22% compared to the placebo group. The mechanism involves the lovastatin naturally produced during pu'er's microbial fermentation, making pu'er one of the only teas that generates a compound found in prescription cholesterol medications through entirely natural biological processes. Researchers at Kunming University of Science also identified that the specific Aspergillus niger strains present in pu'er generate statins at levels sufficient to modulate lipid metabolism without the muscle-related side effects sometimes reported with pharmaceutical statins. Separately, a study in the journal Phytomedicine demonstrated that pu'er tea polyphenols improved gut microbiota diversity, increasing populations of beneficial bacteroidetes while reducing firmicutes, a ratio associated with healthier body weight and improved metabolic function. When purchasing pu'er, seek out cakes or bricks labeled as shu or ripe pu'er if you want the fully fermented variety. Rinse the leaves once with hot water before your first steep, then brew at full boiling temperature. A quality pu'er cake can be re-steeped 8 to 10 times, with the flavor evolving beautifully on each pour, becoming smoother and sweeter as the session progresses. Now we shift to number 5, and this one might surprise you because it looks nothing like tea. This is Job's tears water, known in Mandarin as yimi shui, made from a grain-like seed that Chinese herbalists have used for over 2,000 years to drain what they call dampness from the body. The Compendium of Materia Medica, the famous Ming Dynasty pharmacological text compiled by Li Shizhen in the 16th century after 27 years of research, lists Job's tears as a treatment for edema, digestive sluggishness, and joint pain. Li Shizhen documented over a dozen specific preparations using Job's tears, noting that the seed was considered especially effective when combined with red beans to strengthen the spleen and promote fluid metabolism. In southern China, especially Guangdong and Fujian provinces, grandmothers still simmer these pearl-white seeds into a slightly sweet, starchy liquid served chilled in the summer months. Walk into any traditional Cantonese dessert shop, and you will likely find yimi shui on the menu, often alongside other herbal soups that reflect the region's deep belief in food as medicine. The texture is light and milky, comforting in a way that feels nourishing rather than heavy. Modern research has zeroed in on a compound called kosol, which gives Job's tears its notable anti-inflammatory properties. A randomized controlled trial published in the journal Nutrients found that overweight participants who consumed Job's tears, extract daily for 12 weeks, experienced a significant reduction in visceral fat area measured by CT scan, with an average decrease of over 13 square centimeters compared to the control group. That is meaningful because visceral fat is the metabolically dangerous fat surrounding your organs, far more harmful than subcutaneous fat, and strongly linked to type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and metabolic syndrome. The study also recorded improvements in triglyceride levels and fasting blood glucose. Additional research published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry identified that quinolide, another active compound in Job's tears, exhibited anti-tumor properties in cell studies by inducing apoptosis in human lung cancer cell lines through activation of the caspase-3 pathway. A further investigation in the journal Food Chemistry found that the antioxidant capacity of Job's tears exceeded that of brown rice by nearly 3 times when measured by ORAC values. On the practical side, the traditional preparation is simple. Rinse about 50 grams of dried Job's tears, soak them for 2 hours, then simmer in a liter of water for 45 minutes until the liquid turns slightly cloudy. You can drink it warm or cold, and many Chinese families add a handful of red dates for natural sweetness and additional iron content. That brings us to number 4, and we are stepping into something with real medicinal intensity. This is astragalus root tea, brewed from the dried sliced root of Astragalus membranaceus, known in Mandarin as huangqi. This root has been a cornerstone of traditional Chinese medicine for at least 2,000 years, appearing in the Shenong Ben Cao Jing, one of the oldest known herbal texts, where it was classified as a superior herb safe for long-term use. In northern China, particularly in Shaanxi and Inner Mongolia, where the best roots are grown in sandy, well-drained soil at high elevation, huangqi was traditionally given to people recovering from illness or surgery to rebuild what practitioners call wei qi, or protective energy, essentially the body's defensive vitality. The great physician Sun Simiao, often called the king of medicine during the Tang Dynasty, included astragalus in dozens of his most important formulas and specifically recommended it for patients who felt weak and caught colds easily. The dried root looks like flat, pale yellow tongue depressors, and when simmered, it produces a mildly sweet, faintly woody liquid with a pleasant warmth that lingers on the palate. The key bioactive compound is a cycloastragenol derivative called astragaloside 4, which has attracted serious scientific attention for its effect on telomerase activation. A study published in the journal Aging Cell demonstrated that astragaloside 4 activated telomerase in human T cells, potentially slowing one of the fundamental markers of cellular aging. This is significant because telomere shortening is directly associated with age-related diseases, and finding natural compounds that can influence this process has become one of the most active areas of longevity research. Beyond that, a systematic review published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology covering 44 clinical trials found that astragalus-based formulas significantly improved immune function markers in cancer patients undergoing chemotherapy, including increased white blood cell counts, reduced infection rates, and improved treatment tolerance. The polysaccharides in astragalus, specifically APS or astragalus polysaccharides, have also been shown in a controlled trial in phytotherapy research to enhance natural killer cell activity by nearly 40% in elderly participants over an 8-week period, suggesting a meaningful boost to the innate immune system that typically weakens with age. To prepare this at home, take about 10 to 15 grams of dried astragalus slices and simmer them in 4 cups of water for 30 minutes. Strain and drink throughout the day. Many Chinese households add astragalus slices directly into chicken soup or bone broths, which is one of the most traditional and practical ways to consume it, and this method allows the beneficial compounds to extract slowly over a longer cooking period. Moving to number 3, we encounter a drink that sounds exotic but has been a household staple across eastern China for generations. This is goji berry tea, made from the small, bright red-orange berries of the Legium barbarum plant, known in Mandarin as guqizi. The Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region in northwestern China is considered the origin and finest growing region for goji berries, and local farmers there have cultivated them for over 700 years along the fertile banks of the Yellow River, where the alkaline soil and intense sunlight create ideal growing conditions. Historically, goji berries were prized in Chinese medicine as a tonic for the liver and kidneys, believed to brighten the eyes and extend life. Monks in remote mountain monasteries reportedly consumed goji berry infusions daily, and the fruit appears in nearly every classical Chinese herbal formula designed for longevity. The legendary herbalist Ge Hong, writing in the 4th century, described goji berries as a way to lighten the body and make the spirit bright. The berries are vibrant red when dried, slightly chewy, and taste like a mild, tangy cross between a cranberry and a cherry tomato. When steeped, they release a faintly sweet amber-colored liquid that deepens in flavor the longer the berries sit. The science here is anchored by a group of polysaccharides collectively known as Legium barbarum polysaccharides, or LBP. A randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition found that participants who consumed goji berry juice daily for 30 days reported significant improvements in energy, sleep quality, mental acuity, and feelings of calmness, while also showing increased antioxidant markers, including superoxide dismutase and glutathione peroxidase levels. Their zeaxanthin levels in blood plasma increased by over 250%. Zeaxanthin is one of only 2 carotenoids that accumulate in the macula of your eye, making goji berries particularly relevant for long-term vision protection against age-related macular degeneration, which is the leading cause of vision loss in adults over 50. A separate study in the journal Optometry and Vision Science confirmed that daily goji berry supplementation over 90 days protected against macular hypopigmentation in elderly adults. Research in the Journal of Medicinal Food also found that LBP enhanced the activity of antioxidant enzymes in the hippocampus of aging animal models, improving spatial learning and memory performance, which opens interesting questions about cognitive preservation. To make goji berry tea, simply add a tablespoon of dried berries to a cup of hot water and steep for 5 minutes. After drinking the liquid, eat the softened berries at the bottom, because much of the nutritional value remains locked in the fruit itself. In China, people also toss a small handful into their morning porridge or evening soup as a daily wellness habit. We are now at number 2, and this is where the science gets especially compelling. This is ginger and jujube tea, known as jiangzhao cha, a warming combination that has been prescribed in traditional Chinese medicine formulas for over 1,500 years. The pairing appears in the Shanghan Lun, the classical text on cold damage disorders written by the legendary physician Zhang Zhongjing during the Han Dynasty. Zhang Zhongjing is often called the Hippocrates of Chinese medicine, and his formulas are still taught in every traditional Chinese medicine university today. Ginger and jujube were rarely used alone in his clinical formulas. Together, they were considered a harmonizing pair, with ginger warming the stomach and dispersing cold, while jujube, the Chinese red date, nourished the blood and calmed the spirit. This combination appears in over 30 of the Shanghan Lun's original 113 prescriptions, making it one of the most frequently used pairings in classical Chinese medicine. In rural Henan and Shandong provinces, this tea remains a winter staple, simmered in clay pots and served to anyone showing early signs of a cold. The liquid is golden brown, fragrant with ginger's sharp warmth, and naturally sweetened by the dates. Fresh ginger contains gingerols, which convert to shogols when dried, and both compounds have demonstrated powerful anti-inflammatory and antiemetic effects. A meta-analysis published in the journal Nutrients covering 12 randomized controlled trials found that ginger significantly reduced nausea and vomiting across multiple conditions, including chemotherapy-induced nausea, morning sickness, and post-operative nausea, with an overall risk reduction of over 35% compared to placebo. A separate systematic review in the journal Pain Medicine found that ginger supplementation significantly reduced chronic pain markers, with measurable decreases in C-reactive protein levels averaging over 20%. The mechanism involves gingerol's inhibition of cyclooxygenase and lipoxygenase enzymes, the same inflammatory pathways targeted by ibuprofen and similar nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, but without the gastrointestinal side effects. The jujube side of this pairing contributes its own pharmacology. The cyclic AMP compounds in jujube fruit have been shown in research published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology to enhance sleep quality by modulating GABAergic pathways, with participants falling asleep an average of 15 minutes faster and experiencing deeper, slow-wave sleep. A study in the journal Phytomedicine additionally found that jujubicide A, a saponin unique to jujube, reduced anxiety-related behavior in clinical models by acting on the serotonin receptor system. To prepare this at home, slice about 15 grams of fresh ginger and combine it with 5 to 6 dried red dates, lightly crushed to release their sweetness. Simmer everything in 3 cups of water for 20 minutes. Drink it warm, ideally in the evening if sleep support is your goal, or in the morning if you are targeting digestion and circulation. And now we arrive at number 1. The most significant drink on this list, and one that operates on a level most people never think about. This is reishi mushroom tea, brewed from Ganoderma lucidum, known in Chinese as Lingji, which translates roughly to spirit plant or mushroom of immortality. No other substance in Chinese medicine carries a more exalted reputation. The Shennong Ben Cao Jing, dating back over 2,000 years, classified reishi as the most superior of all herbs, above even ginseng, and associated it with longevity, spiritual clarity, and calm vitality. For centuries, wild reishi was so rare that only emperors and high-ranking officials had access to it. Taoist monks sought it in remote mountain forests as an aid for meditation, believing it nourished what they called shen, or spirit. Ancient Chinese artwork frequently depicts reishi alongside cranes and deer, all symbols of eternal life, and the mushroom was considered so precious that discovering one growing wild was treated as an omen of divine favor. The mushroom itself is striking, with a glossy, lacquered reddish-brown cap that looks almost artificial in its perfection. When sliced and simmered, it produces a dark, bitter liquid with a woodsy, slightly earthy flavor that takes some getting used to, but that practitioners consider deeply medicinal. The scientific literature on reishi is vast, but the most compelling research centers on its beta-glucan polysaccharides and triterpenes, specifically ganoderic acids. A systematic review and meta-analysis published in the Cochrane Database of Systematic Reviews, one of the highest standards of evidence-based review, evaluated 5 randomized controlled trials and found that reishi supplementation produced measurable improvements in immune response markers, with patients showing enhanced natural killer cell activity and improved lymphocyte proliferation. This is the kind of high-level evidence that separates reishi from many other traditional remedies that lack rigorous clinical validation. A study published in the journal Immunological Investigations demonstrated that ganoderic acid tea inhibited the release of histamine from mast cells by nearly 50%, suggesting a powerful role in modulating allergic responses and potentially offering relief for the hundreds of millions of people worldwide who suffer from chronic allergies. But perhaps the most remarkable finding comes from research published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, which showed that reishi polysaccharides reduced reported fatigue and improved quality of life scores in breast cancer patients undergoing endocrine therapy over a 12-week period. The triterpenes in reishi have also demonstrated hepatoprotective effects, with a controlled trial in food and chemical toxicology showing significant reductions in liver enzyme markers ALT and AST in participants with elevated levels. Additional research in the journal Molecular and Cellular Biochemistry found that ganoderic acid DM activated apoptotic pathways in liver cancer cell lines, while leaving healthy cells unaffected, a selectivity that continues to attract interest from oncology researchers. To prepare reishi tea, you need dried reishi slices or powder, as fresh reishi is too tough to consume directly. Simmer 5 to 10 grams of dried slices in 4 cups of water for at least 2 hours on low heat. The long simmering time is essential to extract the beta-glucans from the tough chitin cell walls that would otherwise pass through your digestive system without releasing their active compounds. The resulting tea is bitter, and many people add a small amount of raw honey or mix it with a milder tea like chrysanthemum to balance the flavor. For convenience, high-quality reishi extract powders standardized to contain at least 30% polysaccharides are widely available and supported by the clinical research. These 7 drinks represent something remarkable when you think about it. Thousands of years before clinical trials and molecular analysis existed, Chinese herbalists were already reaching for chrysanthemum, pure, Job's tears, astragalus, goji, ginger with jujube, and reishi, guided by careful observation passed down across generations. Modern science is now confirming what they knew all along. So which one surprised you the most? Was it the telomerase activation behind astragalus, or the Cochrane-reviewed evidence for reishi? Drop your answer in the comments, and if this opened your eyes to something new, hit like and subscribe so you do not miss what we cover next.